The first railway in Puerto Rico was a horse tram line in the city of Mayagüez, opened in 1875. It was originally proposed by José A. González y Echevarria in 1870 under the company El Ferrocarril Urbano de la Villa de Mayagüez, with the line being built between 1872 and 1875. The simple street railway system consisted of small wagons on rails pulled by horses and connected the center part of the town with the playa sector. It was followed a few years later in 1878 by a steam tramway between the capital, San Juan, and the town of Rio Piedras, built by an entrepreneur called Don Pablo Ubarri, who was given a permit to build and operate the tramway. The tram was electrified in 1901, and by 1911 a new line going through Condado had been built. During its heyday, it was the most modern electric tramway system in Puerto Rico, rivaling New York and Toronto. The cars had such features as steel arch roof bodies, improved ventilation, up to 65 seated passenger capacity, and air-operated front and center doors. With more than 14.5 miles of track and 36 passenger coaches, it transported nearly 10 million passengers a year, and the fare was 10 cents. The main Puerto Rico rail system was created during the late 19th century and was significantly expanded during the early 20th century due to a growing sugarcane industry in the island. Its origins can be traced back to 1874 when a Spanish engineer proposed building a steam railroad line along the coast of Puerto Rico. The study for this project served as a base for the definitive construction, which began in 1888. It would take almost 20 years to complete the whole route from San Juan to Ponce. The main system began operations in 1891 when the northern line was built between San Juan in the Martin Peña sector and the town of Manatí, followed by extensions to the town of Carolina to the east and Arecibo to the west the following year. When the United States invaded Puerto Rico in 1898, the system had approximately 168 miles of railroad track. Passenger travel began to flourish in 1902 when the American Railroad Company acquired the system. In 1904, the southern line was constructed between Hormigueros and Yauco. The northern line was expanded towards the west of San Juan to include the towns of Arecibo and Aguadilla. One of the most significant projects of this line was linking the main rail line through Quebradillas and Isabela, requiring the construction of tunnels and tall bridges, including the Oaxaca Tunnel, completed in 1904. In 1907, the northern line of San Juan was connected to the southern line of Ponce, finally connecting the northern and southern portions of the island. Before its demise, the Puerto Rico railroad system had some 310 miles of track and served almost all coastal towns, carrying freight into the island and transporting agricultural products to the ports for shipping overseas. Transport by rail greatly improved the everyday life of Puerto Ricans, since passengers could now travel between the largest cities, San Juan and Ponce, in record time. Previous trips used to take several days by horse and wagons, but the regular train greatly reduced traveling time to around 10 hours. There were 4 main trains operating all day and night during the system's peak years, with train number 1 departing at 7 a.m. from San Juan and arriving in Ponce at 5 p.m. Tickets for this one-way trip cost $1.50 for the first class and 95 cents for second class in 1950. The system was such an important part of island society that famed composer Manuel Canario Jimenez composed a plena song titled La Máquina about the daily trip between San Juan and Ponce. When Puerto Rico changed its mostly agricultural economy to a manufacturing one, and the US and Puerto Rican government started investing heavily in interstate highways and freeways, the railroad business in the island soon collapsed. The system was almost lost when the American Railroad Company filed for bankruptcy in 1947. In an effort to save the system, former employees reorganized the company and formed the Puerto Rico Railroad and Transport Company, serving as stockholders. But by then, the system could no longer compete with the increasing number of automobiles, trucks, and buses on the island. Passenger travel ceased in 1953, while the commercial service, mostly for the sugarcane industry, continued operating until 1957. Small portions of the system remain operational for local industries, including the Mercedita and Arroyo sugar refineries, until the collapse of the sugarcane industry in the early 1990s. Construction on a new rail system began in 1996 called El Tren Urbano. The construction project was plagued by delays, contractual disputes between the government and companies involved in the undertaking, and investigations into possible mismanagement of funds. The project cost was $2.28 billion. The rail system was officially inaugurated on December 19, 2004 and grew in popularity with 40,000 people using the train daily. By late 2005, however, ridership had fallen to 24,000, less than one-third of the 80,000 projection and well below the projection of 110,000 for 2010. The drop in popularity can be explained by the fact that the Tren Urbano has poor coverage. It has no services to Old San Juan, Santurce, the international airport, and important suburbs like Cataño, Toa Baja, Toa Alta, Carolina, Trujillo Alto, Canóvanas, and others. Today the project remains unfinished, with only phase 1 having been built, and with the economic and political problems plaguing the island, it is unlikely the original project will be finished.
Encomendándose a Dios, ella salió gritando, la máquina se rompió. Se reventó, la máquina patinaba, timonero le dice ayudante.